Renaissance Europe was obsessed with optical reality, capturing the exact curve of a cheek or the accurate play of light on human skin. But the late portraits of England's Queen Elizabeth I display a white mask that rejects all of that. These images look flat, stiff, and utterly alien. She stands rigidly, gripping a rainbow in her fist. Her cloak is completely covered in embroidered, disembodied human eyes and ears. This visual style was a calculated choice. In the late Tudor court, a royal painting wasn't a physical record of the monarch, it was a coded text. You weren't supposed to look at it for its beauty, you were supposed to read it for its message. The real Elizabeth was a woman in physical decline. She had survived a brutal case of smallpox that left her heavily scarred and half-bald, forcing her to rely on wigs and thick lead-based cosmetics. Her addiction to sweets had rotted her teeth to the point that foreign ambassadors struggled to even understand her speech. Yet, the official portraits show none of this. The two-dimensional, symbol-heavy style was a deliberate visual shield, constructed to hide a deteriorating human ruler who was entirely surrounded by hostile powers. To understand how extreme this shift became, we have to look at where her public image started. This is a portrait from her youth. She looks like a recognizable young woman in a relatively simple red gown. The visual vocabulary here is straightforward. She holds a small prayer book in her hands. She wears a red rose pinned to her chest, with white roses bordering her neckline. For a Tudor audience, the translation was simple. The book signaled Protestant piety. The red and white roses proved her descent from the two houses that fought the Wars of the Roses, validating the dynasty. Her flowing hair signaled her status as a maiden, ready to marry and produce an heir. That imagery worked perfectly for a standard monarch. But by the late 1570s, it was clear she would never marry, and the Tudor line would end with her. The old rules of royal propaganda were no longer enough. Elizabeth was aging past her childbearing years, leaving the realm without a clear successor. The state faced a massive political crisis. How do you maintain the authority of a queen who has failed her most basic dynastic duty? The state completely rewrote her public identity. In the sieve portrait, she's draped in somber clothing, but the focus is the golden sieve she holds. This points directly to Roman mythology, the story of Tucha, a Vestal virgin accused of breaking her vows. To prove her purity, Tucha miraculously held water in a sieve without spilling. The Tudor court used this myth to reframe her celibacy as supernatural invincibility. By encoding her celibacy as a source of power rather than a weakness, she successfully neutralized her biggest political vulnerability. She didn't just survive the crisis, she changed what it meant to be a female ruler. In 1588, the Spanish Armada, the greatest naval force of the age, was shattered by storms and English resistance. In the wake of this victory, Elizabeth's visual code escalated from personal purity to cosmic global dominance. Her portraits abandoned the last traces of physical humanity. Instead, her image became a map for claiming the oceans and the expansion of the English state. We see this clearly in the globes that began appearing in her paintings. By resting her fingers directly over the Americas, she was staking a claim to the New World and asserting that the seas now belonged to England. To protect this myth, the government enforced a mandate called the Mask of Youth. No matter how much she deteriorated physically, every official portrait froze her face in a state of eternal youthful perfection. Artists began covering her in pearls and crescent moon jewels, symbols of the goddess Cynthia. This told the viewer that the queen wasn't just a woman, she was the moon itself, the immortal force that controlled the tides of the earth. By the end of her reign, the real woman was entirely replaced by a cosmic protector. When we return to those bizarre, mask-like portraits from her final years, we can finally see them for what they are, a fully translatable political cipher. The disembodied eyes and ears on her cloak warned that the monarch heard every secret and saw every act of treason. The rainbow in her hand declared that she alone brought peace after the storm of the Armada. This was the cult of Gloriana. As the Reformation stripped traditional religious icons from English life, the state engineered this new secular mythology to fill that cultural void. This campaign was built on the theory of the two bodies. It argued that a monarch consists of a frail, mortal human and an invincible, immortal political body. By hiding the woman's decay, the state ensured only the institution's strength remained visible. Queen Elizabeth I executed one of history's most successful PR campaigns. She proved that if you code a myth deeply enough into the culture, it can become far more permanent than reality itself.